This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today, we've got a special guest. We've got Sammy Blindell, who is the brand builder and ripple maker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have a ripple maker on the show. For those that aren't familiar with the term, what does that mean?
It means that we are doing something so much greater than ourselves. We're collaborating, we're uniting to create a ripple effect that makes a difference on a global scale, not just locally, but globally.
We're going to get into that, but first I want to learn a little bit about your history. So I've been connected to you for a while, so I know some of the impressive things that you've done, but what was a brief summary of your story, how you became so invested in this kind of ripple making idea that comes from your projects?
Thank you, Adam. Well, I mean, it started back in 2002 when I started my first business. And I had to go to training because I had no idea. I was wet behind the ears, had no idea about running a business. And I went to this training on tax or accounting or something like that, which is the opposite to what lights me up. But I knew I had to do it. And on the screen behind the presenter, there was a quote, and it said, "Individually, we are one drop. Together, we are the ocean." And the guy probably thought I was really interested in his conversation and his topic because I was writing and writing and writing. But actually, I didn't hear a word that he said because I was sitting there thinking, well, what? Individually, we're one drop. So does that mean that we're all a one drop then? Well, if we're not all a one drop, then who's a one drop? And how do you become a one drop? And what does it mean to be a one drop? And, and I just explored this whole thing around one drop. And by the end of the session, I'd made pages and pages of notes, and I came away from it thinking, okay, well, if what a one drop means is to be generous, to be grateful, to be gracious, to be a ripple maker for other people, then that's what I'm going to set out to do. And that was the biggest thing I came away with from that whole presentation. And each and every day I focused on how could I create a ripple effect for just one other person, one drop, just one other person. And so I set out to be an impact maker. And I accidentally, on that route, by supporting other people, built 5 companies. And I did them purely out of joy. And I think that's why they grew. I had this kind of childlike curiosity. I know that I'm not the be all and end all of how to create something. So I always looked to collaborate and build team instantly. And so I think that's also how they grew quite quickly. And I was always listening, really good at listening to others. What do you need? How can I support? Who can I connect you with? How can we grow this? How can we turn this into something bigger than just an idea? And that's what we did. And I ended up building as I say, 5 companies, and what my main company was a branding and marketing and website agency, again partnering with other people. And the long and short story of it is really that I committed so much of my life to making a ripple effect for other people that I burned out really badly. And in 2013, whilst we were going through the process of selling our agency, I ended up having to walk away from that £8 million business because it was just all consuming. And what I realized was that I was investing in a lot of coaching, a lot of mentors. I always invested at the highest level. That's something I believe is really important. I don't want to go to a plumber for open heart surgery. I know that there are people that are the best of the best, just like you, Adam, at what you do. Why would I go and cut corners and end up going round in circles when I could just go and get it immediately? The challenge was that I was focused on profit, not purpose, because of the people that I was hanging around with. So we were constantly growing and building and expanding. And I was kind of living in an identity that really didn't suit me. That wasn't who I was. And it got to the point where we were working with a lot of corporates, and I couldn't see the change that we were making. I was making a marketing director look good by that point. We weren't seeing the result of the people on the end of it. And it was really crushing me. And I got to the point where my purpose was really calling me. It was screaming at me. And it was screaming at me, first of all, with some little twinges. which then became debilitating chest pains, which then hospitalized me 4 times in as many months. And the 4th time I ended up in hospital, the consultant said to me, Miss Blindell, you've got to change what you're doing. You know, I've seen you in here 3 times now. If I see you, or this was the 3rd time, this was the 3rd time I was in there. Said, if I see you in this room even one more time, I can't guarantee that the results that you are doing to your body are going to be reversible. You've got to change what you're doing. Well, of course, I'm looking at my watch thinking, I've got a bloody pitch in the morning. I can't be here. Like, you know, I've got to get back to that. I wasn't thinking about my health at the time. I was just thinking about growth. And so the 4th time I ended up in hospital, not many weeks after, he said to me, look, I gave you the warning last time. You are free to make your own choices, but you're not free of the consequences of these choices. I am imploring you to go and change what you are doing. And it was then I just sat back and I thought, actually, why am I doing this? Why am I rushing around? Why am I building everything for everyone else? Why am I making millions of pounds, dollars, and euros for all these other people who I can't see the result? And my life seems to be going on the back burner. Each and every time I say yes to someone else, I seem to be saying no to myself a lot. What's that about? And I just in the next 24 hours, I, you know, and I don't necessarily encourage everybody to make a decision like I did, but over those next 24 hours, I thought, you know what, actually, what have I got? I've got everything that money can buy, and I haven't got the things that money can't buy. I
Mm.
want love. I want to be around my family. I want kids. I want to be able to have time to take my dog to the park. I didn't even have time to do that. And I just thought, you know, there's something really wrong with this picture. So ultimately I walked in 24 hours later and I handed the business over. I said, I'm done. And I walked
Wow.
away from that business. I got on a ferry that night. And I remember that was the 30th of September, 2013. I exchanged all the paperwork on the business. They paid me £1 so that there was a physical exchange. And I walked away. And I went to France and that where my mum and dad were living. Well, they still are living. And I thought, I'm never going into business again. Like the whole thing had crushed me so much by that point. I thought, I don't want my life to be about money and the big house and the big car. It's not who I am, but it's what I'd got swept up in. And so for me, it became about creating a positive ripple effect for myself first,
Mm.
and understanding that actually people will only really believe you when your life backs up the words you say. And I wanted my life to back up the words that I said. So that's when I ultimately became a ripple maker
Yeah.
for myself first.
Amazing. I mean, it does sound like there that a lot of that potential stress and kind of even like medical and physical issues was coming from the incongruency. You know, you firmly believed in one thing, and yet like 90% of your actions were taking you in a very different direction. And that kind of turmoil, you know, reached the
Totally.
point. And you know, that intuition, you know, yeah, it will give you a whisper to begin with, but then it was shouting and screaming at you to kind of take note, which, you know, thankfully you did. Has there
Yeah.
ever been any regrets when you kind of think about what you walked away from, you know, being in business for so long, you know, probably negotiating very well to get deals and price your services at the right level? Do you ever think back and say,
Yeah.
I could have got at least, you know, X amount, or do you just put that down to what needed to happen at that point in
So
order for you to
many
turn the
people,
chapter?
so many people were begging me to keep shares in the company. You know, they were throwing all these different things. I was like, I don't want it. Seriously, they paid me £1 and that bought me my freedom. I'm all good. I wouldn't do it any other way, because to me, I left them with a legacy. You know, I've always been the driving force behind everything that I've ever created. So I feel really, really good that I walked away from that and left them with a business that, as long as they continued to serve clients in the way we were serving them, they would never have had to find another client again. We had millions coming through that company. So as far as I was concerned, I got to walk away having built a beautiful legacy. You know, that embryo that I'd created had started to walk and talk. It had turned into a human being as such that I was really, really proud of. It was just the perfect business for someone else, not me. And I think, like you say, Adam, that those pains and, you know, that was like my intuition calling. but it had to get to, I guess, this precipice of disaster, this warning that, here's the result of you continuing to do what you're doing in the way that you're doing it. And, fortunately, I didn't get a cancer diagnosis or, some real, as the doctor said, if I see you in this room even one more time, then I can't guarantee the results are going to be reversible. Some people do get that diagnosis and the results aren't reversible. So I actually feel I was really lucky that God, the universe, source, our creator, whatever it was, intuition was just giving me enough nudges that I could bounce back from that. But what I'd say, Adam, is that I know that I didn't give myself enough time to rest, because I moved to France, and my mum and dad have holiday cottages over in France. So I moved into one of their holiday cottages, and I just had the intention of resting and doing nothing. And I guess from the point of view that when I was building those 5 businesses, because I was building them all at the same time as well, when I was building that, I didn't have any headspace. It was always just to-do lists and, just ticking stuff off, tasks, and meeting demand, really, and creating demands to then meet more demand. And then there I am in France, and all I've got around me is countryside. I've got nothing else in my head. There's nothing renting space in my head. And there were all kinds of things that really wanted to. I just kept saying, no, I haven't got time for that. I need time for me. I can't do this. But I do remember laying there one day thinking, well, if I were to create something else, what would it be? And I knew exactly what I didn't want. I knew that I didn't want staff. I'd been through that journey. I didn't want staff. I didn't want an office. I didn't want to be stuck in one place. I didn't want my phone to be ringing constantly. I just wanted peace. I wanted to create something that would give me peace. I wanted something that would be fun, something that I could do from no matter where I was. I wanted to travel. I wanted to really make money doing what I love. And I remember going to a friend's course to support them to run this event. But I remember being in the audience, and he said, right, turn to the person next to you, and you've got a couple of minutes each way just to tell each other like what you do, and for that person to reflect back to you, what could you create that is an asset, like a product or a program or something. And I really didn't believe I had anything in me to do that. I thought, well, I'm great at branding and directing. Like, no one's going to want to know what I know. And I genuinely believe that. So I said, hey, you go first to this guy, because I thought I would just go spend all the time on him. And anyway, did his thing, and I gave him advice, and then it flipped to me, and I said, it's all right, we'll continue working on you, because I can't do that. I've got nothing I can turn into assets. And he said, what do you mean? He said, you've just told me all this, that you've given me loads of advice. Like, tell me a bit about your background. I told him, and he said, I would pay anything to know what you know. I said, really? He said, oh my God, like, you've built 5 companies without even sniffing. Like, you just seem to find it so easy to do this. What, you create things magically, you grow community like nobody I've ever heard of. And I'd love to know how you do that. And I was astounded. And he said to me, can you create a course that shows me how to do that? Like, instead of you doing it for me, which is what we'd always done for you as an agency. He said, could you show me how to do it? And I said, well, I guess I could work out how. Ultimately, he became my first customer, and I created the Brand Accelerator program and did 3.5 million off the back of that one program.
Wow.
And as a result of creating that, I was like, if I can do that once, then what would happen if I just applied that again and again and again? And since then, I've created over 1,000 mini courses. We've got over 70 different products and programs that we sell online. I've spoken all over the world. We've done the most amazing things and adventures and been on documentaries, and it's just been a wild freaking ride. And I can honestly say that because I got focused on the vision that I wanted for my life, not the vision for my business, it helped me to understand what kind of business I needed to build to give me the life that I wanted. And ever since then, I've been very intentional about what I build and how I build it, and listening to the calling, shall we say.
Yeah, tapping into that intuition, because it sounds like a lot of people have got that desire to kind of, create that map, if they like, of what they want. But it sounds like your intentions were equally clear on what you didn't want, because
Yeah.
otherwise people can, chase that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and then find out that actually they've built a lot of the stuff around it
Yeah.
that is kind of, not easy to walk away from. I mean, you managed to do it, but when you've got properties, like an office, if you've got staff on the payroll, very difficult to just walk away from that once you figure out it doesn't really align with what you're looking to do. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important that what you said there is that, having that sense of purpose really means that, what I found when I became a hypnotherapist 5 years ago, that 20 years worth of business experience that I was serving other clients became really useful when I was building my own brand, because suddenly you think, well, hold on, if I've done this for companies like, Microsoft and IBM and, GlaxoSmithKline, I could do this for myself. It's the same
Yeah.
principles,
Yeah.
and gives you that element of leverage. What are the clues now? Back then, it was kind of medical issues. It was kind of, chest pains and things like that. How does your intuition communicate with you now to let you know if you're going off course?
I love that question. I get asked this question in different ways quite a bit. Well, I really live a life that I believe backs up the words I say, and I'm very, very non-negotiable on fun time. I'm really non-negotiable on that. And I'm sure my social media communicates that as well. We sold everything last year, and I'd kind of got to the point where it was like, yeah, I've had all the material stuff. It didn't make me happy. I just want travel and adventure and fun and freedom, and to be the best demonstration of what financial freedom and personal freedom really looks like. And, I live my life really by design. And I hope that other people are inspired to say, well, if Sammy can do it, then I can do it. So we sold everything last January, just before we went into lockdown. We bought a houseboat, and we travel full time. We've built 3 global businesses since we've moved onto the boat. And I think because we're moving, it creates movement everywhere. It creates movement in everything. It's funny because I used to travel a lot, and I would be on a plane going out to speak somewhere, and I would get so much done on the plane that I wouldn't usually get done if I were sat stagnant. And I realized that I need to be moving when I'm in my process of creation.
Mm.
So if I'm thinking about an idea, I take the dogs for a walk. If I've got a challenge that I'm struggling with, I get out there, I start moving, I go for a walk. I have to be moving. It's just true for me that I have to be moving. And I think that might also have been, looking back in hindsight, that might have been why I was getting the chest pains, because my body was wanting to move. But
Mm.
we had £23,500 a month of fixed costs before we even opened the doors on our business, with our physical business. So I had no freedom. And if I went to go and walk out of the office, the phone would ring and someone would say, Sammy, it's such and such on the phone, can you answer that? It was like, it was relentless. And there are some people that thrive on that, but I wasn't thriving on that. So I don't get phone calls these days. My phone doesn't ring. I can't even remember the last time I was actually on the phone. Although I have a phone, I use it for social media, and I'll jump on Clubhouse or whatever, but it's on my terms. And I think that's the biggest thing now, is that, like, I usually take on average a week out of every month to just work on me, and to be with myself. And that's when new ideas are allowed, like that's when that creative time is there to come in. And a great example of that was about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, when Clubhouse went mental and viral. I was on a break, and my husband said, oh my God, you've got to get on Clubhouse. Blah, 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 blah. And I went, no, I'm on a break. But you're missing all this, all these people, they go, no, I'm on a break. Fill your boots, but I'm not doing that. I'll do it when I'm ready. And so All right, I didn't get followers as fast as everybody else, but that was all good with me because I was giving my body a rest. So I'm really listening. I listen to it. And, there are some days where we're really into something, like I run RippleFest at the end of every month. That's high energy, massively intense. I give 100% of myself to that every week. The whole thing is for charity. And that's another commitment that I made as well last year, was to give my way to prosperity. And I found that the more I gave, the more I received. And that's a big one for people to get their noodle around sometimes. It's like, what? You give everything away, but yet you end up with so much more. Yes, because I don't know how it works. I'm not a quantum physicist, but what I do know is the more I give, the more I receive. The more I receive, the more I can give. And we live a very simple, nice, and easy life.
Mm.
And
You do see
and
those paradoxes a lot,
time.
don't you? It's in hypnosis, it's known as the law of reversed effect. But sometimes the harder you try, the more elusive success is. Naturally, when
Yeah.
it's kind of, take it or leave it, suddenly all these things that you were chasing suddenly come towards you. It is a very strange thing. Can you give the audience a couple of examples of how you create a ripple effect in someone else?
Well, the first step really is, because that's such a good question. That's one I haven't been asked. I would say the first step is to listen. You got two ears and one mouth. Act accordingly, my friend Wendy says, and it's so true. Listen, and you will, even if that's listening with your eyes, which sounds a bit weird, but even if that's on social media, and instead of trying to respond to everything and get your name everywhere, just take it in and look at what's happening in people's lives. I have a bit of a thing where I focus on just 3 people each day. I've got a little impact code that I created that I really live by. In fact, I posted it on Instagram last week, I think, because people kept asking me about it. And it's just, I spend about an hour a day just focusing on how can I be the ripple effect for one person. But most of the time, I do it for 3 because it takes no time at all. And I just focus on what's going on in their lives. I just pick somebody randomly, and I'll check them out on social media and see how it's go. I'll just reach out to them. Hey, I can see you're doing this. You're doing an amazing thing there. I just want to let you know that even though you might not realize the impact you're making, you really are making a big difference. And I just wanted to let you know that.
Mm.
That is a ripple effect. That's a ripple, because so often we focus so much on everything externally outside of ourselves, and we berate ourselves for what we didn't do, what we didn't achieve, how far we should be that we're not. And I've been there, and I've done all of that. And I know that we only ever make, or we only ever know of around 1% of the impact we ever make. And so, people like to know that they make a difference. They like to know they matter. They like to know that they've been heard. And a lot of the time, people are posting on social media and they'll get some likes. They might get a few comments of gratification, but no one really ever reaches out to them and say, hey, you really are making a big difference. Keep doing that. And for me, that's the simplest impact you could ever make. I mean, how long does that really take to pick 3 people who you're already on social media with, to just send them something like that? It will make their day. And guess what will happen? They will then go and be much nicer to somebody else, which means they're now creating a ripple effect. And then they will create a ripple effect. So all you need to know is, what's your first drop? You just
Mm.
need to make the first drop, and the rest of it really takes care of itself. So that's the first thing, is really, listen and watch, and just let people know that you're grateful for them. And the second thing I would say is to be really intentional with your day or your hour or your month, your year. Just be really intentional with it, because it can go really fast. I mean, like, where's the last year gone? It can go really fast. But if you set your intention, like with one drop movement, which is actually a thing, I started it a couple of years ago. As you can see, for those of you that are watching, I've got a one drop pendant, which I we make ourselves. My mum makes them at her glass fusing studio in France. And so my members of One Drop Movement, they've bought their pendant, or we do key rings as well for men, because we realized there are a lot of men out there that also wanted to take part. And they, just every morning, just set that intention, hold it like a gratitude rock, or put your hand over your heart area, and just say, okay, guide me to be the greatest ripple maker that I can be today. And then even that is intention enough that when you get that phone call that says, you can just check in with yourself and say, is that going to make the boat go faster? Is that going to move me towards the vision, or is it going to move me further away from? Is it going to help someone else to get what they want? And am I going to feel good about that? Yes. So now, will I do that? Or is that going to help somebody else, which isn't going to help someone else on the end of that? So you get to ask yourself some more intelligent questions and act accordingly. And it means you're creating a ripple in every moment. We talk about impact, we talk about creating legacy, but too many people create legacy from the space of creating something that will continue to live when they die. I believe in creating legacy in every moment. You literally can create legacy just by smiling at someone. So just one drop, one small thing can make the greatest ripple effect. Just start by doing something that, for somebody else that you wouldn't usually do. And it feels amazing. And that really rapidly increases your energy. And the other thing is that, and you maybe have found this as well, Adam, which kind of speaks to what you said a little while ago, is that what I used to find was that I would do something and I would be judging it already. Like I'd do something for someone and think, well, they haven't responded yet. Or, I'd be looking for the response from that person. And that wasn't working. It wasn't working. And I didn't feel like it wasn't working. I didn't know at the time, but I got to a point where I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let go of this. I'm just going to let go of it. I'm not going to judge it anymore. I'm just going to give it, and then it's theirs. The universe can take care of it from there. And what happened was I noticed that even though I wasn't getting anything back from that direction, I was getting it from here and here and here. And because I was so focused before on not getting it, like, why hasn't that person responded yet? I was missing all of the other amazing stuff that was coming back to me into my life, because it's the law of reciprocity, isn't it? Like when you give it out, the universe pays back in dividends to what you put out there. So don't focus so much in one direction. Just do it and let it go. Let go of all expectation, let go of judgment, let go of anything with that. Just do a nice thing and carry on. Just get on with it and just forget you've even done it. I get people say to me all the time, can you do you want to partner on a course, or can you speak on my summit? And I'll say yes. And there's so many people I know that will say, but did you, have you signed terms and conditions? Have you, do you know what they're going to do with it? I say, I don't care what they're going to do with it. That's my ripple of impact. I've supported them to create something that's going to add value to their audience, and I've let go of it. I don't need to know where it's going or what it's doing. I don't mind. What I care about is it made a difference and I was able to matter for that person. So I think we can hold on to things too much. If you let go, that's when you really start to grow.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're very purposeful and very clear on your values. And I think the metaphor I quite like with values is that it's like a compass. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but it kind of steers you in the right direction. And it sounds like you use that, you check that compass on a regular basis. It's not every day I have a ripple maker on the show. Part of my goal is to impact 1 million lives through the hypnosis that I create. If you were helping me or advising me as a professional ripple maker to make more ripples with what I do, what would be your advice?
My advice would be to focus on creating ambassadors instead of just clients. And when you get into an alignment with those clients in a way, obviously not just you, Adam, because I know you already do this, but for other people that are listening, I really believe in building ambassadorship. And it's something that happened with Brand Builders Club. We started to build their brands. Other people started to take notice, asking them how they're doing it. They then started coming to me and saying, look, I've got these people that really want to grow this here. Can you train me on what you do so that I can help them to do it? And ultimately, that's what I did. So I ended up with a load of Brand Builders Club members that I trained to become genuine ambassadors, not just someone who cared about what I do, but they wanted to do what I did and they wanted to make that impact. So I would say the fastest way for you to reach your million is for you to take a back step and say, okay, for me to have reached 1 million, who can I work with where I only work with 100 and they reach the million? Or I work with 10 and they reach the million. So I don't know that, again, it's about expectation and holding on to a number, isn't it? I know that 3 years ago, I set out to positively impact on the lives of over 4 million people. But I knew it didn't need to be directly through me. I just needed to be the ripple maker that created the ripple. And so I broke it down. I thought, well, if I'm going to positively impact on 4 million lives, which is going to be a lot of work for me, although I could reach that many through a good Facebook video or YouTube, I could reach that many people through a radio interview and through getting on stage and through television. And ultimately, I did all those things. But the fastest way I could do that without working really hard is if I work with 1,000 people who are on a mission to positively impact on 4,000 people each. And so that really got me focused on who my ideal client was. And I was able to then say, well, if I'm only going to work with 1,000 people over the next 12 months, who are they going to be? Because they're going to need to be proactive. They're also going to need to be living their life true to their word. They're going to need to be somebody who loves fun, because I don't want to work with somebody who's not fun. So they've got to be in alignment with my values. They've also got to be in alignment with freedom, because freedom is really important to me. After not having it, I knew that's what I wanted. So I had to build my businesses in a way that gave me these two things. And this is how I build everything: peace and pace. What's going to give me peace? How do I set this up in a way that I have peace whenever I want it? If I choose to jump into something, I can, but I have peace. That means automating, systemizing, and getting other people to do things that I would then have to do myself if I didn't get someone else into that. And then pace, something that enables me to continue being the heartbeat of the brand, but not the be all and end all of the brand. So my advice to you would be, how can you reach 1 million people in the fastest possible time with the path of least resistance? And that would be train others to do what you do. Get ambassadors, your customers who love what you do, who also want to make an impact. Maybe train them to go out there and do the same, or partner with somebody else that can train them to go out there and do the same. And that way you're bringing two lots of expertise together. Again, that's dramatically speeding things up, because it halves the amount of time you're going to reach those people. And I think for me, the biggest lesson that I ever learned was about, I tried to do everything myself, and ultimately, like, I was the one that bottlenecked everything. So now I'll be the thought leader, and I'll be the, hey, why don't we do this? And then I'll immediately look for the first person who's really skilled in that thing and say, can we partner on this? And, like, sometimes I give 100% away of what I do. And I'll say, look, I like with One Drop Movement, for example, I've just partnered with 2 different people. They don't even know each other. They're people that I've known for a long time through my networks. I said, look, I'm not technical, but I've had this idea. I really want to get this out to the world. Do you want to go 50-50? And then I met this other person and I thought, actually, they can help take it out to the world. Like, I'll just do a deal with them where they have my 50. So they don't have ownership. No one has ownership of the business. It's always profit share. So it's based on performance, but I get to build my brand in a much faster way. I get to make a much bigger impact. Even if I don't make the money, I make myself smile and I get peace, and other people get to do the work, and everything that I do then benefits from that on the back end. So I think, again, something we can do is look at a project, or look at something, I want to reach 1 million people. We can look at that and go, right, well, 1 million people, if I get 1 million people to pay me £1 that a month, that's £1 million a month. But what my question, I guess, would be, how can you give that pound away as fast as possible to somebody else who can make £10 for you. So for every pound you give, they're making you £10 back. So don't always look at that first initial, and I know you don't, but for those that are listening, don't always look at that first initial thing of, like, you know, when I launched RippleFest, my husband said, how are you going to make money out of that? You're doing the whole thing for charity. It's a week of your life every month and you're doing the whole thing for charity. I said, yeah, I just trust that it will reveal itself. And he's like, what? You know, and he's looking at the income and the cash flow and everything, and that's his thing. My thing is impact now. I'm done with focusing on profit. I know profit comes from purpose. The more in purpose I am and the more aligned with my purpose I am, the less I even have to chase it. It's like it chases me. So I'm able to do things so much faster and reach that million. And I think this year, January, I think it was this year, because this year's going so fast already, we're committed now to 12 million. So 12 million positively impact lives as a result of my one drop. And, you know, ultimately the goal is to bring 1 million one dropreneurs together and unite to collaborate instead of compete. And I think that if we had 1 million one dropreneurs just giving $1 a month, imagine what we could do. If there was a world disaster, we wouldn't have to save up for it. We wouldn't have to do crowdfunding. We'd have the money there. And so that's something that we do with RippleFest. Is the end of every month, I bring a whole bunch of experts together for a brand acceleration program. So we work on the personal brand in the morning, we work on the business brand and the movement that they're making in the evening. So they've got all the time in the day. I know what it's like to be a busy person. So they can crack on with that. But what I do is, instead of paying my speakers, because the people that I bring on, they're people I've spoken on big stages around the world with, I've been on documentaries with, they're people that would usually charge a lot of money. I ask them to do this for free in return for them nominating a charity that they would like us to contribute to. So all the money that comes in, we charge just £8 to be a part of it. And all the money that comes in through it, we then divide that across the 5 charities at the end of the week. So everybody wins. And, you know, and Greg's saying to me, well, where's the money going to come from that? I said, I don't care. And I don't know. I just know that it will. And you know what was fascinating was, so many people got to really focus on the ripple effect that they're really here to make. Like, Adam, I'd be saying to you, 1 million, you're already making that impact. Add a freaking zero, add a zero, right? Create a 100-year legacy, make something that's so much bigger than you that it scares the pants off of you to even think about that number. Because if you add a zero, you'd probably agree with me, and those of you listening in, that you'd have to do a few things a little bit differently to reach 10 million than you're doing right now. You'd probably have to put some different systems in place than the systems you have now. You would have to be different in your habits and the things that you're doing every day, the way you carry yourself, the places that you show up. You'd naturally have to do something different. So by creating a brand and an impactful, creational, absolutely intentional day, where you get to say, yeah, I created something that will eventually reach those 10 million lives today. I did something else that moved us. It moved the needle towards that direction. And you'll hit it, and you'll at least hit that million. So I'd say add a zero, if not 2.
That's it.
Would be my short answer.
It is, it's a great answer. And I think at some level, you know, when I was seeing hypnotherapy clients one-on-one, I thought, you know, when I thought of that million, it was a very big number, because I thought, well, doing it one-on-one, that's going to take a very long time, even impossible in my lifetime. But then I thought, right, well, if I do workshops, I can have more people in the room. And then I thought, right, this hypnosis that I'm recording, get it into a microphone, get it on podcast, get it on YouTube. So actually, I am on course to get to about 1 million people, probably within 2 years.
Exactly, you already are. Add
Yeah,
a zero.
yeah. Well, that's it. I'm on course for it. So I will update that mission. So you've already had a ripple effect on me. You know,
Oh, I love
so,
it. You
so
know,
well,
something,
well done, Sammy.
Adam, something that I would also suggest is, you know, find somebody who already has, like, you know, think, if I could only pick 10 people and put 10 people around a table, imagining, like, you know, the best meal you're ever going to have with these 10 people. You got these 10 people, and each of those 10 people are reaching 10 million lives every year. who would they be? And how can you positively co-create something with each of those people so that your brand, and then you let go of it, and your brand is then out there in front of their networks. That's another fast way. What you just said there actually reminds me of Marie Diamond from The Secret, dear friend of mine.
I've interviewed her actually. She's great.
Oh, she's lovely, isn't she? Well, she was part of a book. So I when COVID hit last year, I said to my brand builders, look, we're all in a really fortunate position. There are millions of people who have gone into complete panic and overwhelm over how are they going to continue to operate their businesses now. The world has changed, right? The world has changed. We're not going back to the same world, but how can we be intentional with the world that we create for ourselves? Because then if we might not have control over what happens out there, but we can control how we show up. We can control how we contribute. We can control our brand. We can control what we give and how we give and how we land on others and the ripple effect that we make for others. So I put a thing out in Brand Builders Club and I said, I want 22 brand builders to come together. I want you to share what is working for you right now in this lockdown that is enable you to build your brand. So we called it the law of brand attraction. I got Marie Diamond and Bob Doyle from The Secret. He wrote the foreword for it. And Marie's story, and I can't remember if it's in the book or whether she told it as part of the interviews for the book launch. And I remember her saying that she almost died. She had near-death experience when she was, I think, 15. She was run over and almost died. And during that process, she was told, I think it's like 50 million or 150 million. It was this massive number, the amount of lives that she was here to serve. So she didn't have time to die. She had to come back because that's what her mission was. And I'm telling this very, roughly. You have to listen to it. I think it's you probably find it if you type Marie Diamond in the How to Build a Brand group. You'll probably find it because I interviewed her in there. But I remember her saying that she actually sat down at 15 and worked out, well, if I'm going to reach this, 50 million or whatever the number was, how am I going to do that? Because even if I work with one person a day, that's not going to work. And if I talk to an audience of people, well, even if there's 100 people in each of those audiences and I did that every day, that's not going to reach. And so she sat down and she actually, so you saying that, how could I reach that in my lifetime? Or excuse me, I could do this in 2 years. Absolutely you can. And it just reminds me of her story of how she would turn up to an event that she was putting on and there'd be hundreds of seats in the audience and she wouldn't have even one person show up when she first started. But she said, you know what, I delivered that presentation anyway. Even though there was no one there, I imagined there were 100 people in every seat. And she just visualized that there was 100 people in every seat. And she said, and eventually she was speaking to packed out auditoriums, speaking all over the world. And then obviously she sits next to Rhonda Byrne at one of Jack Canfield's Association of Transformational Leaders days at his house. And she starts this conversation with Rhonda and she says, yes, she gets onto The Secret and the rest is history. I mean, that has reached millions and millions and millions of lives just from being in The Secret. So that one thing that she said yes to, that she had no idea what it was, she just went and did it and then she let go. And so I keep hearing this thing about letting go, and I think there's something in it. So I'm going to keep doing it. Just do it and let go so you can grow.
Which actually aligns a lot with the law of attraction and the principles of The Secret, in the sense of be very intentional in terms of what you want, but don't worry too much about how you're actually going to get it. And I think that's a lesson that you've learned firsthand there. If someone's listening right now and they're curious about being a ripple maker or the one drop philosophy, where can they go for more information?
Thank you, Adam. Well, the best place to go is RippleFestQuest.com. I mean, they can Google me or SammyBlindell.com. I've got a website as well. But RippleFest Quest, that's where the real ripples happen. And so we're doing some great stuff with RippleFest. Like I say, we run it every month. It's just £8, about $11 to take part. 100% of that money goes to charity. And what we're really working on is how you can own your identity, how you own your value, how you own your gift that you're bringing to the world, how you own the impact that you're making through that, and how you really own your lane through building a brand that positions you as the only ripple maker in your industry that people should be listening to and taking notice of. So we do, it's a bit of a personal process in the mornings, and then in the evenings we bring movement makers in that we just ask the questions. Listen, it's taken you 16 years to have 6 million customers who are now, like my friend Natalie, who I was on a documentary with, Natalie Ledwell. She's the founder or co-founder of Mind Movies. They've got 6 million clients now that are downloading their movies, that are on their subscriptions, that are investing in all the stuff that they do. And I said to Natalie, look, it's taken you 16 years to do that. If you were to do it all over again, and the people listening into this interview right now were able to learn from you how you would do it if you did it all over again, how you would cut it down, how you would achieve probably in a year what it's taken you 16 years to do, what would you do and how would you do it? And so we're getting them to break down how they've achieved that success, how they've brought their gift to the world. And it's been a really amazing journey, and we're obviously doing something right, because the people that were at RippleFest 1 came to RippleFest 2, and then the people at RippleFest 1 and 2 came to 3, and then 1, 2 and 3 came to 4, and we're just about to run RippleFest 6 next week, and we've got like a whole tribe of people that have been to all the other RippleFests. But I suppose because I bring new movement makers in each time and we train new things each time, it's become a really good personal development thing for people to do. So Adam, you're going to need to come and get involved. We'll get you on RippleFest 7.
Excellent. Sounds amazing. And what I love when you're explaining the idea of like ripple making, obviously we started the conversation talking about like business growth and those kind of things. And I always picture like a linear, almost like a little chart where you've got a line that goes upwards, and it's very much two-dimensional and kind of linear. When you think of a ripple, it goes outwards in every direction. It's very much a three-dimensional. So that exponential growth is certainly possible when you've got the right kind of framework.
You
Sam,
never know where the ripple's going to go either.
that's it. Yeah, it's less
That's
predictable,
amazing.
but I guess more impactful, which is an amazing thing. Sam, it's been great to have you on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. You've asked some really great questions that I haven't been asked before.
Fantastic. And to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset. See you again soon for more.